Music is a start. Sound is good. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ackle on here, and of course, welcome back to each and every one of you. And if you're watching this over on YouTube, please remember to hit that like button and also click the link in the description down below because it's always better when it's live. Today's is going to be about 4 hours stream. Sadly, it can't be longer because my power is getting wrecked. But yeah, it's going to be about 4 hour stream, and we're doing about 2 hours just hanging out, maybe some reactions. We'll see what time allows. And then at 12 o'clock, we're starting with the podcast. And last week, most of you enjoyed the podcast. At least I hope so. If you didn't, I do apologize, but it's what we do. It's what I like doing. Hopefully this week's will be even better. And I'm pretty sure that once Dragonflight goes live, it's going to be very good. There's going to be a lot more to talk about. There's, especially as we move into December, that's usually when there's like a lot of gaming news and stuff happening, especially with companies sort of teasing games that's coming early next year. So I think December is going to be a really good time for the podcast. We'll see. Of course, the world's fucking nuts right now, so it might actually turn out that no one has anything to announce, but that's not really fair. There is obviously a lot of things happening. I'm very much looking forward to Dragonflight because, we're going to be speculating like nuts once Dragonflight comes out, which I'm very, very excited for. I think the lore is done well. I think it's not so much that the lore is done well. I think it's a good time for especially new people to really get into WoW because it is sort of like a hard reset, or maybe like a soft reset is a better word for it. But it is definitely a reset insofar as if you're a new player in World of Warcraft and you started playing, say, BFA, Master Jarl, how you doing, brother? Let's say you started playing in BFA, or maybe you started playing in Shadowlands, or even maybe you started playing in Legion. There was a very good chance that you had no idea about any of the lore. You didn't understand how much of these things played out, especially if you go to Shadowlands. In Shadowlands, you would have dealt with characters. Let's say you started playing in Shadowlands. First of all, you have this crazy person that rips open the sky. Nolasco, how you doing, brother? You have this crazy person that rips open the sky. Lunari, Emergent, how you guys doing? Kenjamin, how you doing? And then my power literally just came back on, Lunari. They were fixing something. So when it's not fucking load shedding, it's breakdowns. Yeah, I literally just got power about 15-20 minutes ago. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, if you're you're Abaddon, how you doing, brother? If you started in Shadowlands, you had this crazy person that's ripping open the sky. You have no idea what's going on. Okay, so for those of you that literally just joined, I was just sort of, I guess, repeating a thought process or pattern that I've had for a really long time now. Just sort of explaining something that a lot of people in my comment section, as well as a lot of people on Twitter and just in other comment sections that I've been frequenting, that I've been seeing quite a lot. And it is from people, the sort of iffy about the Dragonflight lore and, should I be excited for Dragonflight? Should I not be? What exactly is it all about? The reason I am super excited for Dragonflight is Dragonflight really is what we would call a soft reset of the World of Warcraft universe. And what I mean by this is if you're a new player that starts out in Dragonflight, you really, based on the lore that we've got so far, most of the lore we have right now is lore that we've never really had. So you look at things like the Primalists. The Primalists existed really in a realm just short of speculation, but not really nested or settled within the lore of or established lore of World of Warcraft. Sure, the Dragonflights are very established in World of Warcraft, but insofar as the Dragonflights trying to get their power back or anything like this, there's not much in the old WoW that you need to know in order to get into Dragonflight and actually follow the story. You're getting introduced to all of the Dragonflights, the same as all other players will be introduced to it, especially if you play through the Drakthir campaign. You see that Blizzard took great pains to ensure that new players truly understand the story of the dragons and how the Dracthyr were created and all of the dragons that led to this creation. So, it's a good starting experience and a good springboard. If you compare this to expansions like Legion, BFA, or Shadowlands, if you're a new player and you started playing in Shadowlands, you had this crazy lady that ripped open the sky. You don't know who she is. You have no idea where she comes from. You also don't really know why she ripped open the sky, so you would be forgiven for thinking, oh, this is one of the bad guys. No, this is actually not one of the bad guys. This is just a very nuanced character that has been around for a really long time and has had a very bad life. But because you've not played through that, you wouldn't know. And then you meet up with this jailer guy. Of course, no one knew about the jailer, so all of us are new in this one, but at least we had a lot of context to Death and the things that Death have done on Azeroth to at least give some weight to these characters. You meet a guy called Uther, who's really just a blue smurf, and you have no idea who this guy is or why he would be important to the story because you just don't know. Right? There's just nothing to know about this character because, well, you didn't play then. So really, you would have been lost as a new player within Shadowlands. Dragonflight is a complete reset of that. It's a return back to more normalcy for a lot of us established players, and then for a new player, it just opens a new chapter, and there's enough breadcrumbs from the old chapters to sort of lead you into what the story should have been, and it does feel like Blizzard has at least stayed or remained cognizant of that idea. If you look at the legacies, so a lot of people complained about the legacies, the legacy chapters, that they were, not focused enough on certain things, and we wanted to see this and we wanted to see that. I watched the legacy chapters really as you're a new player, you've never played World of Warcraft, what is necessary for you to know? That's how I watched the legacy chapters. Yes, they did keep in mind that, established players would be watching it as well. But a new player watches that. The new player learns about Galakrond. Right? Doesn't learn everything about Galakrond, but this is the point. You don't need to learn everything. Maybe you see this big-ass dragon, you're like, whoa, I wonder what that is. Well, it doesn't take long for you to literally just Google who is Galakrond to find some information and resources on who Galakrond actually was. At the same time, the player gets introduced to the Protodrakes that would eventually become the dragon aspects. The player gets introduced to Nosdormu, and Nosdormu takes us through these timelines and shows us what actually happened. You get introduced to Deathwing as one of the dragon aspects, and you learn that Alexstrasza is the queen of the dragons, but Deathwing betrayed his brothers and sisters. You learn about the Dragon Soul, all that stuff. And as a new player, you feel generally caught up to the story once you start playing. This excites me. From a lore perspective, it excites me to see what happens next, because we can already see if you go to if you do Uldaman, the new dungeon, and you find the scriptures within this new dungeon, you will find that Blizzard is introducing a boatload of new concepts, lore concepts specifically. So we learn about the heretics. Who are they? What are they? Are these keepers that turned their back on the Titans? Did they follow the Void? Did they follow something else? Are they heretics because they actually sided with the Protodrakes, the Primalists? Well, we don't know. But it's really interesting. Even as an established player, it's really interesting to sort of learn that even at the inception of what we would call, the sort of modern day World of Warcraft or post Black Empire era of Azeroth, that there were things that happened there. There were clashes that happened there that we were never told about. Insofar as we were concerned as players, the only clashes that ever took place during the Black Empire were between the Titans, their keepers, and the Old Gods. And then, of course, all the machinations and creations of the Old Gods. But now we learned that's not true. There were also clashes between the heretics and the Titans. There were clashes between the Titan Keepers, so the Titan Keepers weren't even necessarily always getting along. And I love the fact that we're going to be exploring these, let's say, unknown elements of World of Warcraft and Dragonflight to give us a little bit more of a clear vision of what our early universe in World of Warcraft was. So all in all, I think we should be excited for Dragonflight. So hopefully, if there are people, and I know there's going to be people that say, well, Akelon, I don't care. I don't like the new direction of the story. Blizzard can go suck a dick or whatever. And in that case, what I'm going to tell you is, cool. That's the beauty of games. If you don't want to play it, don't play it. It's really as simple as that. But if you like story, if you care about the lore of World of Warcraft, this really is... I would say this is the penultimate moment for Steve Danuser and his team to prove that they understand how to make a story for a game. Because there's been many excuses over the last few years. We've heard from people that the working conditions at Blizzard was absolute shit, right? So a lot of developers felt scared to go to work, felt uncomfortable to go to work. And I can imagine, as a creative personality, if you're going to work, and not even just creative personalities, anyone, if you go to work and you're afraid of the things that may happen at work, you're afraid of being groped, you're afraid of sexual innuendos and sexual advances being made, welcome or unwelcome, if you're constantly looking over your shoulder, you're not going to be able to put out the product that you really want to put out, right? Because you have to deal with all of this other stress that's coming at you, you know, like a freight train. So Blizzard cleaned up that shit, which means no more issues, drinking breast milk and all that crap. Yes, Blizzard cleaned this up. The company seems to be on a new trajectory. It seems like a lot of the developers are really happy to work there now, and you know, we'll see, because now they have no excuses. There's no lawsuits to fall back on. There's no bad behaviors to fall back on. There is just you are at work, do your job. And then for the lore team, there's always been this sort of thing that they've been hiding behind, especially in Shadowlands, where while Steve Danuser didn't create Shadowlands' story, he sort of inherited it from what can arguably say it as one of the worst guys that worked at Blizzard, right? Just a horrible fucking human being. Even though a lot of the stories that he created were great stories, you can't take away from the fact that the people that worked with him fucking hated him on every level. So it could be that things just deteriorated to the point that his own team couldn't really do a good story because they just hated their jobs, or whatever the case might be there. So he's gone. Steve Danuser inherited the story, tried to do the best he could with what he had, you know, and it was just a failure. And I think everyone can admit that it's a failure. Even Steve Danuser, in his interview with Noble, admits that they made mistakes. Things that, you know, looking back, they would have liked to do differently, especially with things of the Sylvanas novel, where they kind of missed the mark on a lot of the intrinsic motivations of some of these characters that wasn't given to the players when the players needed it, and instead was left for the novel when the players no longer needed it. At that point, we were over it, right? We didn't understand what Zval wanted. Zval did a bunch of things, and we still didn't understand what he wanted. I mean, reading afterwards what the motivations for a character would be is not the same as knowing it when you're going into it. It doesn't shine a light in a good way. It just sort of leaves the player with this, well, I should have known this before. It probably would have changed my experiences a little. This time around, Steve Danuser doesn't have this to fall back on. He is the sole creator of World of Warcraft Dragonflight's story. It is just him and his team. They have a narrative director now. They literally opened the position a year ago. I'm pretty sure it's been filled because I don't see that position open anymore. So they have a narrative director, which is literally one of the most important things if you want to focus on a story. Let's see. This is the moment, right? This is the moment for them to prove that they can tell a good story again, because it's not like Blizzard have never been able to tell good stories. Blizzard have always been able to tell amazing stories. It's one of the reasons we're all here, because we fell in love with World of Warcraft storytelling. You know, that's why we're here. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel if stories didn't matter for the players in World of Warcraft. At least some of us mattered for, you know, to us. So yeah, let's see what Steve Danuser and his team can do. And ultimately, you know, this is their moment. This is their final moment, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's why I'm excited for World of Warcraft Dragonflight, because it seems like everything is at least going in the right direction. I mean, the intentions would have been such a good quest line for loyalists, but yeah, let's look forward and not back. Dreamin, I do agree with you. Fallon, how you doing, brother? Foul Smoke, how you doing? Aldison, how you doing? One can hope. Can they take the next step or continue to work off of Warcraft, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3 nostalgia? Aldison, no. They can definitely not continue to. There is a moment where things like that run out of steam, and I think they've run out of steam a long time ago, especially following Shadowlands. Shadowlands really was the conclusion of Warcraft 3. It was the prolonged conclusion, shall we say, of Warcraft 3. So really, there's no way that Warcraft 1, 2, and 3 can really impact the future story. From here on, they will have to create new stories to get excited for, because they're not going to do it just based on the old stories. Not anymore, really. Still full from Turkey Day? Nice. I mean, the intentions would have been... Okay, so here's actually something that I wish Blizzard would do. And maybe not a lot of people are going to agree with me, and that's fine. I think everyone likes different things. But on the short story that we just got, I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I like the short story. I think it was really nice. It didn't have massive sort of spoilery moments in it. It didn't feel like it was just extravagant and almost indulgent to the point of making one want to barf. It was just a really nice moment. Except all of the important people from World of Warcraft or from Azeroth is invited to this wedding, except for the champion of Azeroth. The player is not invited to the wedding. Nowhere in the short story is the player even mentioned as being invited. Now, you could argue, well, the player was invited, just not mentioned, if you want to RP that. But, it would have been nice if the champion of Azeroth was at least present at some point, even as just a literary tool to include the players. But more even than that, I would have loved to play this in the game. And you could have made it a completely optional quest line. Something that it doesn't have to be done. No one has to do it. It is just 15 or 20 minutes of in-game cutscenes with the wedding, and the player walking up to Thrall, for example. Imagine going up to Thrall and being able to talk to Thrall about the stuff that's just happened over the last 2 years, and hearing how he and Agra is doing and how things are playing out. Can you imagine just how cool that would have been? Just a bunch of conversations, speaking to Rathian, and then maybe at the end of it, you're invited to to Wormray Spire to actually witness the dragons returning back to the Dragon Isles. No combat, not even against Grim Totem. Zero combat whatsoever. It is just a nice little story mission for players that actually care about the story. No voice acting either. You don't even have to have voice acting. I mean, it'd be nice if they did voice acting, but that costs a lot of money. If it was just straight up text, I think a lot of players would have actually enjoyed playing through that moment, and it would obviously have felt a lot better than, being excluded from it, insofar as we're not even written in the book, bro. We don't even exist there, which is really sad. We're just a mindless tool for these people. Abaddon, yes, but we're not, though, right? We are the champions of Azeroth. And if you're going to invite all of the... It really does feel sometimes as if World of Warcraft really exists in these two universes that have zero crossover. You have the champions and all the things that the champions do, but then you have the elites. So the elite champions of Azeroth, the actual named champions of Azeroth. And whatever they do, we have zero impact on that. Their actions impact us, but our actions do not impact them at all. They don't even make mention of us. How often have you read one of the World of Warcraft books where the player, or the champion of Azeroth at least, have been included in the story? Almost never. You do wonder to yourself, well, if I'm the champion of Azeroth, would I not be included in this at some point? Like, would my presence here not be an important presence to have? So yeah, I really wish that Blizzard would just start including the player, realizing that the player really is the most important entity within the universe, and not because, without the player, the universe can't exist. Well, technically, that is true. Without players, there is no World of Warcraft. But also because we play such an integral part in how every single story plays out, how all of the happenings in Azeroth happen. To not include us is almost a slap in the face. And I think it would be better if we were included. Anyways, that's the end of my fucking rant on that. Limited edition. One's around the Sundering. The descriptions of how magic works via the Illidan storylines was one of the most memorable for me, even something like 20 years later. I mean, yeah, I think the older WoW books were just better, in my opinion. Oh, imagine it was 100% just flavor stuff. There was not a single reveal of anything big. That you don't already know. It was really just a flavor short story. It's been acknowledged on 2 accounts so far in nearly 20 years of history. What were the 2 accounts? If I remember correctly, the Lich King's downfall, the players were acknowledged so far as being just referred to, I think, either as the champions of Azeroth or the soldiers or armies of Azeroth. I think, if I remember correctly, it's been years. I can't remember the others. I do know it's very limited. There's almost no mention of us outside of, sometimes being referred to as the army. Or an army of Azeroth. Gadcom mentions the champions as willing to aid the dragons against the primalists to Alexstrasza. Imagine, yes, but wouldn't this be... this would be in a cutscene, no? We are specifically talking about the media outside of the game. Because in the game, the champions are often referenced. We're not talking about the cutscenes or, in-game stuff. We are talking about the extra stuff. So short stories, books, and things like that. Chronicles, where wars were given to the Horde and Alliance with the champions' help. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Then with the other Mawwalkers in Shadowlands. Yeah, but was that in-game? No, yeah. Was that in the Sylvanas novel? I don't remember it. It may have been. I fucking read the Sylvanas novel so quickly. And at that point, I was really angry. I should actually go back and reread it, if I'm honest with you. Because I basically just read it in anger. If I'm gonna be honest, at that point I was so angry with World of Warcraft that I basically just fucking slammed through it. It's just like, okay, fine, I'll fucking read your book, but I'm not gonna enjoy it. Screw you. So yeah, I should probably go back and reread it in game, but a reference to other players for the first time as canon people. Oh yeah, okay, I see what you mean there. But I am specifically focused on the extra lore, right? By the way, I just wanted to say thanks. Loved Warhammer lore for a while now, but held off getting the books. You enjoying them made me get one, and I'm plowing through the first Avenging Sun book at the moment and loving it. Oh, Avedon, sir. You are in for a treat. That universe is just disgusting. Heathen History Gaming, how you doing, brother? Traxiton, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that cares anything for lore should want to get into Warhammer. I don't know of a single universe that can get you as excited and as immersed into its, like, ever-evolving universe. I should probably say that. Ever-evolving universe. Because there's many universes that can get you involved in it and that you can really love. But ever-evolving? Just constantly fucking going? Yeah, that is just nuts.
Warhammer reaction hype.
Heathen History, thanks for the 50, dude. Really appreciate that. I don't know how much time we have to react. We have basically like an hour and a half before the podcast starts, and then right after the podcast, I had to cancel the Q&A because, fuck yeah, you guys know already. I don't even have to fucking talk about it anymore. But yeah, we're gonna do the Q&A on Monday because fuck my life. I can never plan anything. I'm actually glad that because originally I wanted to do the podcast at 2 o'clock like we did last week, and then something just told me, dude, don't try and be a hero. Don't make it late. Make it earlier because you can still pivot, but if you make it too late and you have power cuts, there's no pivoting happening. And then my country struck. You can't make this shit up, bro. Archie, how you doing, bro? Thanks for the first time chat. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thank you. Insert Ross Gallup pivot meme here. Dude, I wish. Now, if only we can get the Patreon podcast to return. Dude, show me a time that I can do it in and we'll do it. The times that I have available, I stream. Because if I don't stream, I won't stream. All other times, the other times that I'm not streaming, I don't have electricity. So, I don't know how to make a podcast without electricity. That shit's not really possible at the minute. The warmer version of the Warcraft podcast, Echo currently does. That wouldn't work, Abaddon. That would not work. I can't make a Warhammer Virgin podcast of the World of Warcraft one. I don't know enough about Warhammer, which is as simple as that. I would not feel comfortable. Traxiton, by the way, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Really appreciate it. 3 months. Part of the DJ Nation. Appreciate you, fam. Thank you. I don't know enough about Warhammer. I would feel super uncomfortable trying to make a Warhammer podcast. Because the only thing I can really say about most of the lore in Warhammer is, oh, that's cool. I don't know jack shit about it any other way.
Can we jump in? I am so hyped to see you react to Pandarax. Smiley face.
Heathen, not yet. Like, we will, but not yet. I usually don't, like, immediately jump into reactions and stuff. As you guys know by now, I don't jump into reactions this quickly. I usually wait for people to show up before I just jump into it. Because the problem is if I just straight up start reacting, most people isn't here, so they miss the whole fucking the whole reaction. And since we have maybe time for like one fucking either a couple of short ones or one long one, I don't want to like let people miss that. Pussy, just extra slimy. Kion BJ would use spiky teeth. Wait. Do you think Korn would give you a BJ? I don't think that would happen. German store is selling €1,200 bundle set of Space Marines. 33% off because Black Friday, but holy shit. Jesus, Alderson. Wait, but that's not even that big of a fucking deal. 33% off. That's not really Black Friday deals. Should be like 50, 70% off. Plus, €1,200 is a lot of fucking cash. And the one Chaos God I would not join is Nurgle. Nurgle is fucking disgusting, dude. When you read the books and you listen to the explanation of how the soldiers of Nurgle look, you'll understand why I say I would not join Nurgle. It is disgusting, dude. Actually, all of Nurgle's followers, their guts are hanging out. They constantly sound like they're drowning in their own phlegm because they're sick, right? None of his followers are actually healthy. They're sick. The problem is just that they cannot die from their sicknesses. So imagine the sickest you've ever been. Right? So the sickest you've ever been. That is how you are always. Like, it just never goes away. The one thing is, you can't really feel the pain of it because Nurgle sort of changes your pain into pleasure in a way. So you don't feel pain, but you still feel like you're still fucking god ugly and fucking horrible. Blessed gift? The gift of Nurgle? No, it really fucking isn't, you disgusting bastards. Why would the Slaanesh worshippers be vile? They just want to have sex, bro. Like, they'll just fuck anything that moves. I don't know how vile that would be. Physically possible? Oh, corticoid. Okay, yeah. There is some suffering within the Nurgle thing that is just unfair. Like, the way in which Nurgle tries to convert people to his way of living is actually kind of disgusting. When you have, for example, in this book that I'm reading now, I should actually see if I can find that bit for you guys. I don't know if I will be able to, but let me quickly see. I'm just gonna get the book.
You look like you've lost some weight. That's terrible. Have a dumpling.
There is an inquisitor who had his face changed to look like a horse's.
All right. Let me quickly see if I can find this specific place. It's the typhus thing. It's a little bit back from where I am now. Pretty sure it's in the typhus chapter. That's Tyros. Is it Tyros? I think it's Tyros. The ninth calf brought the monoculars. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, wait. He wasn't stupid. The enemy would have an easy time getting into the city as the Death Guard extended their reach. Same time, every damn day, he waited for the last possible moment before drawing bunkers of gas. Screw you, sir, said Baculus. What happened? He was on edge, worried for his commander. Baculus had been obliterated, an arm and a leg garnished, and a spread of guts next to his Vox set, which was absurdly intact. Suddenly, Devorus could breathe again. He half leapt up before... Okay, this was where the goal was introduced to him. I don't want to spoil that, but for you guys, Devorus looked up and down. Fulth left the nozzles. Water hit the people. Alright, that's Tyrus. Then we have Typhus challenged. Focused light. Despair was exquisite. Lay down your arms, he said to the man. Forget your merciless god. Join with us. An eternity of death and rebirth awaits. Father Nurgle is generous. He has many gifts for the faithful. There is a place for you all in the field of his garden, where blessed suffering may be endured without hurt or harm, and the joyful may live forever in holy filth. The man responded with a lasgun shot to Typhus's face. The beam snapped past the power field, scoring a black line across Typhus's white helmet. Demonic ichor wept from the mark, and he felt the blow as a hot needle of pain. With a grunt of annoyance, Typhus held up his hand and crushed the man's head with psychic force. Clotted oils and lubricants ran from dead devices. The infection of the machines. Target their defenses, ordered Typhus. He pushed his way through. Pointer, thanks for the follow, dude. Really appreciate that. Thank you. They had costly work ahead of them. Mustard yellow gas, potent with a mephitic stench, rolled over the lip of the wall. Man stood up violently from where he sheltered, clawing at his throat. In the younger days, he would have surged forward to take the honor of killing the commander himself. The only tidings I convey to you are of death. You will fall traitor, and the Emperor will see your soul condemned. Heathen History, thanks for the 100 bits, dude.
Slaanesh worshippers often have elongated tongues and over-exaggerated features which are too extreme in whatever way they indulge in. They don't just want to fuck, they also enjoy pain and torture, and they look accordingly.
Yeah, but at least when you're joining Slaanesh, you get to fuck, no? Okay, so here it is. Here it is. Okay, so let me just make sure. Okay, so listen to this. The Portmaster was a brave man. You may destroy my command and take my life, but you shall never beat us, traitor. He spat bloody flame. Only a few years ago, men like him were terrified by the very sight of the Death God. Frequent exposure had dulled their fear. Typhus thought that a pity. Our Lord Gilliman walks among us again and has returned to Ultramar to cast you out. The Portmaster's eyes were reddening. He would be dead soon. I'm aware of this fact, said Typhus drily. Do you have any tidings that might be of interest to me? The Plague Marines chuckled. They enjoyed Typhus's bullying of the weak. The only tidings I convey to you are of death. You will fall, traitor, and the Emperor will see your soul condemned. He stared unflinchingly up at Typhus's glowing eye lenses. Look at you, corrupt and weeping filth. I cannot believe you were once a space marine. I still am. Only, I now have a truer master than you. You follow a corpse, said Typhus. I follow the Lord of Life. You will die. You will be struck down. No, said Typhus. I think not. He shook his monoceral helmet and rested his armored hand upon the man's head. He had in his mind to give him Nurgle's blessing. He was too cynical to expect the commander to convert as the gift took him. But he anticipated his suffering, nevertheless. Something beat him to it. Drops of sweat stood out on the Portmaster's bald head. The skin around his input ports reddened. The whites of his eyes turned deep yellow, while Typhus looked on. He removed his hand from the man's head. Interesting, he said. In Typhus's uncanny sight, the room took on a polychromatic sheen. Arcs of psychic energy pulsed inwards towards the station master. What have you done to me? Shouted the man. Panic finally broke through his ultramarian discipline. Spittle foamed at the corners of his mouth, flew from his lips, and spotted his environment suit. Done? I have not done anything, said Typhus. This is not one of my ailments. Something else is doing this to you. I wonder who. Shall we see? The Portmaster retched. The Death God stepped back from him as he went onto all fours and vomited up black clots of blood. Damn you all, he choked. It's a little too late to threaten us with that, said Typhus.
It's more like Slinch will make you enjoy getting F-ed. There is a part in which Fulgrim is implied to enjoy having something shoved up his behind by his sons.
Jesus. Okay, cool. It's a little too late to threaten us with that, said Typhus. The Portmaster's teeth locked and he grunted in agony. He fell to the floor convulsing. His arms moved in uncontrollable spasms, throwing themselves into angular poses Typhus found amusing. His feet jiggled, his knees knocked. He threw back his head, shaking and moaning piteously, until a great seizure had him arcing his back so hard his spine snapped with a loud wet crack. His thighs shattered, shards of pink wet bone pushed themselves out of his garments, pearls of yellow fat dribbled to the floor, bloody pus pouring from his choking throat. The Portmaster twitched. He was still alive and moaning as his body folded itself almost perfectly in half. Under normal circumstances, he would have died, but Grandfather Nurgle is kind and wishes all those who are afflicted by his gifts to fully enjoy the experience, and so the man's soul remained confined within his body. His eyes rolled madly, even as they clouded with cataracts and sank in upon themselves. His lips split, and his tongue turned black and fell from his mouth to writhe away like a salt-bathed slug. Stinking slurry pulled around him. His bowels leaked. His bladder inflated and burst. Still, the man lived. A spectacle of rapid decay played out before Typhus's eyes, and he watched fascinated while the sounds of fighting drew away from the command block, down the access ways to the hangars where the last few areas of resistance lingered. A greasy slick of sorcery clung to the officer. The sheer variety of death Nurgle meted out was a glory in itself, and this was the finest Typhus had witnessed in some time. The Boardmaster's skin yellowed and sank into itself, his ripening gut distended with the gases of rot and split. Like rapidly inflated balloons, his intestines wormed themselves out from under his shirt, where they remained purple and full a moment, beautiful in their translucency. Then they deflated into black twists and hard matter, leaving the Portmaster's skin as a wrinkled, leaking sack. Black and purple bloomed across his face and hands. His body became a glorious sunset of lividity. His environment suit, so prettily presented only moments ago, was stained black with corpse leakage, furred with mold, and split along the seams. In a minute, the man looked to have been dead a week. In 2 minutes, a month. And yet he still lived. Typhus bent closer to him, the bony vents of his armor puking thick vapor. The buzz of the destroyer hive soared loudly at the movement, demanding to be set free. But still Typhus disregarded its pleas. The first captain of the Death Guard leaned on his Man Reaper and peered down at the dead yet living man, as well as his Terminator plate and vast bulk would permit. With his curiosity fully engaged. You are truly blessed by Nurgle. Such fecundity, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in decay, such color, such fertile ground for life you have become. Know this, little man. Few of your kind experience such exquisite extinctions, and fewer still are permitted to see the cornucopia of rebirth your mortal shells permit. You are favored. The corpse's jaw clicked open and shut upon tendons dried hard. You have fortitude too. You wish to speak. Then speak with the father of life and death in the eternal garden. You have impressed me. He's living herald. Tell him Typhus finds you worthy. Perhaps it is not over for you. A whispering scratched out of the man's knotted throat, his soul speaking to Typhus's witch senses when his body could no longer. Kill me, he managed. Mercy. You have had your allotment of mercy today, Typhus stood tall again. Perhaps you are not worthy after all. That's just one of the ways in which this book describes the death by Nurgle's hands. Dude, these books are fucking disgusting. It is fucking disgusting. Or if you're loving it, have you heard of the new minor Chaos Gods of Heresy and Creation Vastor introduced last week? No, I haven't. I wouldn't call it an average Nurgle moment, Heathen History. It's disgusting, dude. There are so many times where I'm reading this book and I'm truly disgusted by what I read. Just truly, absolutely flabbergasted by the pure... I don't know. It's miserable. It's miserable to read that fucking book. It's good, but miserable. My brother just started reading the first Dark Imperium book. And he actually said it might be like his favorite fantasy of all time. He can't even read it before bed. Because I read I read books every night before bed. And he literally told me he can't. It's not possible. And I was like, why? He's like, no, the books get him way too hyped. Like, if he reads the book before bed, he can't sleep because he keeps thinking about the book. So he has to read it like earlier in the evening and then, play some games or whatever. So that by the time he goes to bed, he's relaxed again. You're a weirdo eating burgers with a knife and a fork so you don't get juices on you? Well, yeah, of course. Too high for bed. Grimfield, I fucking kid you not. He just straight up told me he can't. Like, it's not possible. The book keeps him awake. I have to admit, it did the same thing to me. And it still does. Because every now and again, you'll get to a chapter where you go, fuck, I'm so tired. But I really just want to finish this. And that's when this shit starts to happen. Like, you're busy reading, but then you go like this. You just have one eye open because both eyes will just go fucking just mess up your vision. So you just have the one eye, and then that eye gets really tired, and then you open the other eye and you read. So you try to get through the chapter because you really want to see what's happening next, but you can't because you're too fucking tired. Like, that does happen. If you were to fall to any Chaos God IRL, it would be Zeech because of your desires to know everything. But I could fall for Zeech. I would probably accept Zeech easy because I do like knowing things. Yeah, I don't think I would have a problem with that. Zeech would actually be a cool god to serve. Or does Zeech also do, like, weird things to you? Like, change your body in weird ways and stuff like that? Pandorax starts with Catachan Guardsmen hunting down Plague Marines with their combat knives. Pandorax, you say? Whose video would that be? The true embodiment of the Emperor? So this is what I'm looking at the minute. Just typing in Pandorax. How long is it also? Because we don't have, like, super fucking long. So we can't do, like, hour plus stuff. Absolutely change your bodies. Each often changes your body randomly to a chaos spawn. Just for the sake of it.
Randomly to a chaos spawn just for the sake of it.
Yeah, okay, so none of the chaos gods will actually just let you stay the way that you are. Why? Why do they want everyone to look fucking miserable? I don't understand. Slime Marbo yet? We need him to know? I don't know what the hell that is. Wait, what is this? Fear the Furry. It looks like a Warhammer thing. This has to be a Warhammer thing, no?
Flash Kid.
Flash Kids. No, is this? I don't know what this is. It's Fear the Furry, and it apparently it's fucking brilliant. So let's see.
Pandorax is a campaign in which the Dark Angels and Grey Knights stop Abaddon from opening the biggest warp portal ever.
Oh, shit. I'm gonna have to check that out. Okay, let's quickly see this.
Flash Kids.
This cartoon is a parody about furries and is in no way associated with or endorsed by Games Workshop. Okay. Are they fighting werewolves? What the fuck are they fighting? I'm so confused right now. Oh, there we go. dead now? Are they extracting gene seed? Is that what's taking so long? Oh my fuck. Jesus. All right. Rip. Is this where the furries fucking insert themselves into the Warhammer universe?
Go to our second channel to find out more.
I have no idea what the fuck I just watched. Is this like a running meme inside the Warhammer community that I just don't know about? Because I genuinely don't know what the fuck I just watched there. There is a canon planet with cat humans. Cryptman, get the Exterminatus button. Yeah, you probably would have to destroy this, wouldn't you? At least I would think so. There's a series of short videos of Space Marines killing furries. Ah. Well, I mean, I support the Space Marines in their war against the furries. So, you know, I think that's a good thing. What is this? Might want to wait a bit. Warhammer 40k Dark Tides beta is a disaster. Huh. Okay.
This week, Darktide began its...
Well, this isn't good news. So, Darktide's beta launch is rough. What's happening here?
This week, Darktide began its pre-order beta, which effectively is an early access staggered release. The game officially launches in about a week and a half on November 30th, but anyone who pre-orders can start playing a limited version of Darktide immediately. Now, I want to start off by just saying I really like the core of this game. As I talked about in my coverage of last month's closed beta, so much is done well here, from its combat, the overall gameplay loop, the atmosphere, music, and just about everything about the setting. All of this is very well executed, and as a game, Darktide is just plain fun to play. But unfortunately, despite the base of the game being very solid, there have been a ton of issues with this early access release. It's gone so poorly, in fact, that the game currently sits at a mixed rating on Steam. So for what I consider to be such a good game, like, what is going on here?
So to that heathen history, I would say the fact that the game has a mixed rating on Steam suggests that it's not wrong. Like, you may have played it. It's like Cyberpunk, okay? Cyberpunk came out. Everyone was complaining about game-breaking bugs. People would get like hours into the game, 10, 20 hours into the game, and then just hit a bug that they can't go past. They literally can't finish the game. I've never had one of those bugs. So if I were to rate Cyberpunk's launch, I would rate it as absolutely fucking phenomenal. I loved it. I played it non-stop 3 times in a row where I finished it. just one after the other. I couldn't stop playing. So for me, brilliant game. For everyone else, not so brilliant. So it is possible for some people to have really cool experiences, even though the game is actually fucking broken. Good EU one. It's very positive ratings. It's possible, but again, it all boils down to everyone's experience. Your experience or the experience of one region isn't necessarily enough. Since it's pre-order, they've said that they will launch content in waves and there will be bugs. People are just dumb and bomb Steam reviews. It's not necessarily about being dumb. I mean, if you launch a game, right, you can't expect people to not be angry when the game launches and there's game-breaking bugs or things that you can't get past. Of course, people are going to get angry. To say that people are just bomb reviewing it, I would need evidence for that. I'm not saying they're not. Maybe they are. But I won't just say, oh yeah, that's why people aren't liking it. I'm going to play it, absolutely. But, you know, if you're going to launch a game, even if it is early launch, I don't give a fuck. If you're going to launch a game, it has to be in a playable state. Otherwise, don't fucking launch your game. It's simple as that. I know you want to get hype and you want to get people excited for your game, but make sure that the game is at least playable by everyone, and not just by a small minority of people that can actually get the game to work.
I would say that there are two main factors at play. For starters, the beta, as they're calling it, has just been a giant mess of server, performance, and technical issues. It's really not been good.
Again, you guys do understand how this works, right? Because I see both Even History and Omir coming, there isn't anything game-breaking. No, I just don't accept it. Even though there probably is. It really just depends on how you're playing it, what your setup is, what CPU do you have, what graphics card do you have, how up-to-date are your graphics drivers. All of this can influence it. You can literally have a game that is running perfectly, but if you have an Intel Arc graphics card, the game gets you 20 frames per second. So it is possible that a game can be game-breaking, and you could not have experienced a single game-breaking bug because your system just happens to be optimized for. So, again, it doesn't have... Because if you have a game that's mixed in terms of its reviews, are you, in other words, saying that all of those people that is claiming that the game isn't great or not working as intended, are you saying all of them are lying because you had a good experience?
Is a lot of the normal standard stuff that you might expect with a lot of people trying to all play at the same time. But let me just tell you personally, for me, it began with not even being able to connect to the game. When Darktide released on the 17th, I tried booting it up and was met with about a minute of attempting to join servers, followed by this back-end error, which told me it could not sign in. Now, because this was launch day, I just figured, hey, they're having issues. There's probably a lot of people trying to play, and there were. It was at about 70,000 concurrent players on that first day.
Good.
So I attempted this for about 30 minutes. I kept getting the same error, and I decided, you know what, whatever, I will just wait until tomorrow. So come Friday morning, I make my cup of coffee. I'm excited to sit down and game all day with my pals. I boot up Darktide, and there it was. To my dismay, the back-end error was still here. And keep in mind, this was at like 8 a.m., so I figured at this point, there's no way they're still having server load issues. This is like the lowest point in the day when it comes to the number of people. So I head over to Reddit, and I look to see if anyone...
Okay, Ethan, you're not helping yourself at this point, bro. Unless your system is like prehistoric, 8 years old would put you in like Ryzen 3 territory, Ryzen 2 maybe. Which, if you're thinking about it, that's like 3 generations ago, 4 generations at most. Those would obviously be optimized for. Again, I'm not saying any of this is true. I'm saying that if you have this many people posting the same error for days on end, so you have 2 days now of back-end error, you can understand why people will say that it's a mess. Okay, and I don't care that it's in beta. It is in beta and there will be bugs. And you just heard what he said here. You literally just heard what he said here. He was fine with it. You know, it was launch day. A lot of people were trying to play it. It's fine. I'll try tomorrow. Because it should hopefully be bug-free by tomorrow, or at least I should be able to get in. But then you log on the next day and you're still not able to get in. You're still getting the exact same error. That's gonna drive you fucking nuts. That's the point where you go, I don't care that this is a beta. I can't even play this fucking thing. And maybe I actually pre-purchased it because I wanted to play it early. You know, that's why I actually paid this money, and you still have the exact same error. Like, it's fine. You're going to hit a lot of bugs at launch, but I've always said this, and I stick to this. When you have bugs at launch, that's perfectly fine. What I judge you on is how quickly do you solve those issues. And if I can use an example from a different game, because maybe that will not have as an emotional trigger for a lot of people. World of Warcraft, Warlords of Draenor. It came out and there was a game-breaking bug within the first 10 minutes of the campaign. As soon as you had to build your garrison, your game would just bug out. It would not build that fucking garrison. You had to click on this little, telescope thing, and it would then start the cinematic for your garrison to be built. As soon as you click on that thing, it just bugs you out, and it locks you out of the game, and then you can't get back in, because it keeps telling you that the instance isn't found that you're trying to log into. This bug persisted for over a week. The first day it happened, I was like, yeah, okay, fuck. This sucks, but, what are you going to do? It happens. It happens every time. That's fine. I kept trying, couldn't get in. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning. Again, exactly the same thing. The day after that, exactly the same thing. And I was at the point where I went, you know what? Go fuck yourself. You have to fix it now. For the love of God, people want to play the game. Like, I understand there's going to be bugs and things are going to happen when you have millions of people trying to do the same thing. But now I'm judging you on how fast can you get this shit fixed. I don't want to wait days on end before I can actually get to play the game because you are not fixing bugs that is keeping me from playing my game, regardless of whether or not we're playing on the beta. Because remember, this is not really a beta. This is an early access release. If it was a beta, you would have made it free for everyone so that they can taste the game, because this is a beta. You want to beta test it. They just slapped the label beta on it, but it really is if you already paid, we'll give you early access. And that is not necessarily a beta. You can call it one, but it's not really one. It is a perk for buying the game. And there you kind of have to be very on point with how you fix the fucking bugs. The game might still be great once it launches. Hopefully all of these bugs are sorted by then. But, an error is an error, and if an error keeps you from playing the game, that can be miserable.
When else was having this problem, a quick search revealed, yep, lots of people were in fact have been unable to connect to the servers. All right, so I go through all of these standard suggestions. I reset my router, I restart my PC, I verify the integrity of game files. None of that works, so I try reinstalling the game, and nope. So I go back to Reddit, and then I read this one crazy suggestion. Somebody says, hey, I turned on a VPN and it all of a sudden worked. I'm like, no, that's stupid. It doesn't even make sense. But I was desperate at this point. My friends were already playing and I really wanted to join them. So I caved. I purchased a VPN subscription, flipped it on, and immediately got into the game. Just mind blown. I completely... What is happening? Basically, I guess there's some sort of authentication issue going on, and I've been told outside of flipping on a VPN to circumvent this backend error issue.
Again, I think you guys are getting... Okay, so I'm not holding these developers personally responsible for the bullshit. This is a problem that I have with the gaming industry as a whole. They're all scumbags. Things like this, en masse, should not be happening this close to the launch of a game. The game is literally, guys, launching in 5 days' time. 5 days from now, this game is launching. And you still have game-breaking bugs to the point where some people can just not fucking play. And a VPN fixes the fucking problem. So are you saying, in other words, you never actually even tested for this shit? No, you probably didn't test for it, because it's far cheaper to just make the game and then let the players test it. That's my issue. That's why I'm never going to be on the side. I can tell you guys right now, if you're watching this stream, I will never be on the side of game developers. Never. They are the enemy, as far as I'm concerned. Because almost all game developers have gone the route of make the thing, charge the money, and then let the players test the thing. And the players can deal with the bugs. And the sad bit is that there's so many players now that forgive this. That's like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'll be your beta tester. It's fine. I'll pay to test your fucking game. It's not a problem.
You could also try changing your DNS. Either way, that's like a lot of hoops to have to jump through in order to even connect to the servers, and that is really just the start of the issues. I should mention as well, I checked just prior to recording this. We are 4 days now into the soft launch, and I still am unable to just boot up the game and play normally. I have to use a VPN to connect. I need to like connect to a nearby state.
4 days. That's a problem. Can you guys at least agree with that?
Whatever is happening here that is requiring a VPN or DNS change in order to even start playing. There have been a few other issues that I personally have run up against in my time with the game these past few days. Because yeah, to clarify, as soon as I connect with a VPN, I can from that point forward play normally. And how is that playing gone? Well, there have been some problems, some of this just typical server issues that you will get for online games when a lot of people are trying to play, coming across login queues and having to wait to join the server, dealing with the occasional disconnect, which then puts you in a login queue. And then also in these past 4 days, the matchmaking system has been breaking every single day. We have run up at some point throughout the course of playing into just unable to start a match. Can't queue into a match with quick play. You can't start a match on your own. We try to start a match as a group. We try to start individually. Just nothing will work for a set window of time. Typically, this has been somewhere in like the 30 to 60 minute period where you just can't start a match. We can sit in the social hub, but we can't get into a game. And then when I am actually in and playing, I will say that I have had what I would consider unreliable performance. The frame rate will go up and down at times. It is not completely terrible for me. A lot of the times it is fairly smooth. I hover around.
I would say it's worth
frames,
mentioning, but that is something that you expect with betas.
Big drops. So that's the stuff that I'm dealing with. I can't play without using a VPN. I've had just some of the typical server issues, hiccups, and inconsistencies, and my performance has been mostly okay, but at times not so great. There are two main widespread complaints that I see from a majority of the negative reviews and just general discussion about the game. The first one is incredibly poor performance. Like, that is the number one complaint that I see on every negative Steam review, is that the game runs very, very poorly, very low frame rate, lots of hitching and frame drops. Now, like I said, I've experienced.
I would love to. Fuck, I wish you did a little bit more research here so that you could actually see what system people are running. Like, could we quickly check this out? Because that would be helpful. Because you do often get this, especially with games, especially with newer games these days, where it'll say run perfectly on Intel, but like shit on AMD. Like, people on AMD can just not fucking play. And that can be super fucking annoying. Or vice versa, right? So if I look at my Steam right now, it says mostly positive, which is not great, but that's fine. Mostly positive is at least not mixed anymore. So it means that a lot of the bugs may have been fixed already. No solo play with bots, and no private play with a mate. Randoms join, randoms storm ahead, randoms prevent you. Okay, that's just the guy complaining about stuff. Probably half of my 7+ hours have been at the loading screen, and I disconnect from missions maybe 50% of the time. I know it's only the pre-release beta, so ratings may change, but the game is tedious and borderline unplayable. But hey, at least I've memorized all these loading screen Imperium quotes. Just want to see. That's fine. Just want to see the bad reviews. Should be away, right? Can you link the video, please? I'm interested in comments now. I mean, it's in the on the subreddit, Om. It's literally the third video, I think, on the subreddit. Let's see. I want to see the fucking negative only. Yeah, show me all the negative. Yeah, it's fine. Fucking hell. Can't recommend, not this time. I will say that playing the game is fun, but some argue that is all that matters. The core parts of the game are there and seems to work well. Visuals, currently it's horribly unoptimized. Loading times and the game performance. Like, can I see what this user is playing with? It would have been so helpful if they actually just said what the fuck they're using. So this guy has played 60 hours in the last 2 weeks, according to him at least. 30 hours at the review time. So they kept playing, but it does seem like they're having some buggy issues here. I'm not going to find what I'm looking for, am I? No one's going to actually tell me what system they're playing with. wish they would just make that bog standard. Like, tell me you're playing with an AMD system or with an Intel system or whatever the case might be. A little sad that they're not, but never mind. All right.
Unreliable performance. A lot of the time it will run fine, but every so often in certain levels my frame rate will tank, turns into a slideshow. Obviously don't enjoy that, but apparently for many people it is just bad all of the time, almost to the point where it feels unplayable. And another issue which makes the game pretty unplayable is constant crashing. This is another reportedly widespread problem that people are running into. In fact, one of the people in my friend group that we play all of our games together with, they are crashing all of the time. I would say just about every other match they have had a hard crash to desktop and were forced to restart the game. Now fortunately they have a rejoin system, so a lot of times a bot will replace you and then you can jump back in, but there have also been a handful of times where they've hard crashed, booted out, replaced.
Dude, you know what annoys me? That the guys from Darktide actually thought to themselves, you know what, we have a game that's very competitive that people are going to be playing online. If someone DCs, we should probably have some kind of system for them to get back into the game. And then Call of Duty Warzone, a game with obviously a much bigger budget. If you DC in the Warzone, you're out. Wait, just fuck yourself. You can never get back in. Just go screw yourself. And it's like, bro, how is it that companies like this, that is far smaller than Activision, can think of this system, can sort of think for themselves and say, okay, we need to come up with some kind of system to help people reconnect. And Activision's like, nah, never mind. It's fine.
Placed with a bot, and then even though they're getting back in roughly about a minute's time, they were replaced by another player in that process. So then one of my friends they didn't get anything. They played through most of the match with us. They hard crashed desktop and they couldn't get back in before another player replaced them. And so they miss out on all of the experience about any potential weapons they may get from the Emperor's Gift at the end of the match. They don't get anything. They're just completely screwed basically because of that hard crash and because they were unable to rejoin because they were replaced. So yeah, very, very poor performance to the point of almost being unplayable, and constant crashing are two of the biggest complaints when it just comes to the technical side of things. Fatshark, the developer, has come out in a post and talked about some of the other main issues that they've been running into and that they're trying to deal with. Players encountering these internal errors, players encountering the back-end errors,
they're at least
which that's what I
seemingly
had.
Working with players,
GPU-related
so
crashes, which seems to be one of the primary issues. Some players not receiving rewards or experience at the end of mission. That's not particularly great. And then other server and connectivity issues like failed handshaking and things like that. So there is a laundry list of problems. As you can see, this pre-launch beta test, it's like 10 days to launch. They're calling it a beta, but whatever. It's been a mess. These network issues, these bugs, these crashes,
I think I should just make this clear once again. 10 days before a launch, a month before a launch is not a beta test. It is hype. It is marketing. It is not a fucking beta test. You want to know why? The vast majority of game-breaking bugs will take longer than that to fix. If you run into a bug that is seriously fucking heavy, you're probably not fixing that in a month. If you want to do beta tests, those have to happen with enough time for you to actually fix those things. This is why the vast majority of games that have these beta early access launches will launch with the fucking bugs that it had in the first place. Because you don't have enough time. 10 days is not enough time for you to actually fix the problems in your game. You're doing a promo event, and that's fine. It's fine. You know, you can do your promo event, but don't call it a fucking beta. It's a little misleading. Because betas are meant to be a place where you discover the bugs so that you can fix them so they can be fine for launch. You're not doing that in 10 days. Not with the launch this close to happening. It's not being fixed. You might fix some of the smaller issues, because those you can usually knock out. Let's say it could take you maybe a day to fix some of the small issues. Why does it take that long? Because more often than not, whenever a bug presents itself, it's not a bug that presents itself for everyone. So in a game like this, it might be that if you run into this pillar here at exactly the right angle, right? So you kind of have to hit it exactly at the right angle. It will DC you. Because on that pillar, when you collide with it, there's something in the code that breaks it and it DCs you from the game. Like you just lose timing with the server and everything goes wonky and then the game crashes. But now the developer has game crashes. Okay? That's all. They know that the game is crashing a ton. They now have to go through this map and try and figure out exactly where all of these crashes are taking place. They have to be able to replicate the bug over and over and over and over and over again, because that's the only way that they can really see how this bug is happening so that they can solve the problem. Because it's not usually as easy as just going in and changing some bit of code, because you also have to make sure that whatever you're changing is going to break things further down the line. So there's like a lot of things that can fucking go wrong when it comes to like beta fixing and bug fixing. One funny noteworthy bug, I got kicked out of the games when someone in my Discord started a stream while I was in a loading screen. Oh, Jesus.
Horrendous performance for a lot of people, but this stuff isn't really the only issue. Another pain point does just seem to be the way they're rolling out the release. So as I mentioned at the top, they're starting with a limited version of the game. In fact, in its current state, this is more or less a slightly varied, improved version of the closed beta that we played last month. As of this recording, in the game, it currently consists of 4 missions spread across 4 zones, and they also have some new items, mechanics, and features compared to the prior closed test. There's the new configuration of levels to play, so we're getting some variety there. There's also more variables. These are things called conditions. You can get fog obstructing your vision or an increase to the number of enemy hordes. Playing a mission with these conditions will reward you some more experience, so it's a nice little boost. There are also new mission types. There is the investigation mission where you can follow the servitor and scan objects in the environment. Again, this just adds more variety to the experience. There's also these new mechanics like these curios items, which are just little items that you slot in for your character to grant you some stat buffs. There's also like new weapons, and there have been overhauls to the UI, and there's a list of some more minor things as well that they've added from.
Is there an actual story to Darktide, or is it literally just about killing shit? Like, it's not really all that story-based.
Last month's closed beta to the current edition. It's a lot of cool new things. There's new content to see and play, but also at the same time, it is limited. And that brings me to what I feel is the second issue currently dragging the game down when it comes to these mixed reviews. And that is just their decision to have this pre-order early access also be staggered content release is how they're doing it. They've effectively launched a 2-week early access with a fraction of the content and just plan to slowly introduce it in the weeks to come. So what is classified as week 1, which is the 17th to the 20th, it's those 4 missions across 4 zones. Week 2 is from the 21st to the 27th. It will add 4 more missions, bringing the total up to 8 missions across 4 zones, in addition to new events and what they call other surprises. We do know that there are more vendors and stuff that need to come into the social hub. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Then week 3 is classified as November 28th to the 30th. This adds 2 more missions, bringing the total up to 10 missions across 4 zones. And then finally, November 30th is the full launch, at which point there will be 13 missions across 5 zones. So we're getting 1 additional new zone, as well as some new conditions, those in-game events. So for anyone who pre-ordered, jumped in immediately on the 17th, and has played for these first few days, they're only having access to about a third, roughly, of the total content that will be in the game come launch on the 30th. And it does seem like this has, maybe unsurprisingly, left some people with a poor first impression. This is reflected by the reviews, as mentioned.
I should say with games like this, Laggadder, I don't necessarily have a problem with an in-game store, depending on what they put in that shop. If there's player power, they can go suck my dick. If there's no player power, that's fine, mainly because we know that this is a live service game, so they're going to continue servicing it for probably a year or 2 to come, which means development time. You know, someone has to pay for all of this development time. Now, hopefully that leads to more missions. Hopefully that leads to more games coming out, more like DLCs and shit coming out. So hopefully it's not a case of there's an in-game store, nothing new gets added, then the first DLC comes that you have to pay for, of course, because that's how it works. And then again, in-game store, but nothing real gets added again. So basically the in-game store is just like double dipping into the greed. If that's the case, just stick to your DLCs. Don't fucking charge people anything. But if you're continuously going to keep updating things and keep adding things and keep working on it, then that's fine, right? I don't mind cash shops as long as people earn what they're charging for. I won't pay for anything on a cash shop because I'm a stingy little cunt, but I don't mind them as long as I can make a reasonable estimation and say, I think you've earned that money. I think it's fine. This is one of the reasons I don't have that big of a problem with Final Fantasies in-game cash shop, because I do believe overall they earn that money. They work really hard to make sure that the game is really good, and then them having a store is like, yeah, who gives a shit? At least the game is good as base.
Mentioned they're currently sitting at a mixed rating, which does mean more than 30% are negative. And the biggest critique beyond the server and performance issues that we went over seems to be the game's lack of content, or just in general seeming like it isn't ready for launch. Now, the developer Fatshark has been clear in stating that they consider this pre-launch period
Jesus,
a
that thing
beta
is ugly
that is
as
meant
shit.
first and foremost for testing and feedback. They say, let's face it, launching a game is not easy. More often than not, day one issues will prevent many people from
Robio, some, but all of them were gifted to me or part of the 6-month sub thing. Because I've always been a 6-month subber. Just because it's cheaper to sub that way. But the only 2 that I have that wasn't part of the 6-month sub from the store were gifted to me by an ex-girlfriend on my birthday. She gave me one mount, and the other one, I can't remember why she gave me, but she also gave me another one. I think she bought one for herself and then she gave me one. But I have never physically bought anything off of the cash shop. Ever.
jumping right in. Like, I don't know, say not able to join servers unless you activate a VPN. And then they said our pre-order beta aims to help optimize the launch experience. We plan on doing this by slowly ramping up our services over the next 2 weeks. And I totally get that idea in theory, like make it so that the server load is taken off and you can squash some issues. But the fact that we are 2 weeks from launch, and the fact that in order to find that, I had to go through their blog posts, you know what I mean? I think what the issue here is that people who are just hearing about Darktide, excited about Darktide, and then hear it's playable on the 17th, and they're like, oh, sweet, let me pick it up. And they don't go through the process of reading the details of what is included in this playable early release. And they don't realize that it's a third of the game, more or less. They're going to be left with a poor first impression, really. Whose fault is that? You know what I mean? Is that the person's fault for not researching what they're buying into, what version of the game, the fact that they're calling it a beta? Is that
such a difficult thing? Because on the one hand, it is absolutely scumbaggery from developers, because they know that consumers have become brain dead stupid cunts. So who do you blame? The brain dead stupid asshole that doesn't actually research before they buy. Like, dude, I don't understand how people buy things in this world. So I've wanted a dehumidifier for a really long time, about 3 months now that I've wanted a dehumidifier. Why haven't I bought one yet? Because I'm still fucking researching what is the best dehumidifier on the market. Like, I'm just constantly going through articles, looking at different dehumidifiers, and then I find one that I think is really cool, and then I go look at fucking posts about it and ratings about it, and I read as much information as I can about it, because I want to make the right decision. I don't just want to spend, $4,000 or $5,000 on a dehumidifier and find out that the one I bought is absolutely dog shit. I'm doing the same thing now with the battery generator that I'm trying to buy, or that I'm saving up for. While I'm saving the money for it, I'm also going, okay, so which one is good? I don't want to spend money. And I do this for literally almost everything that I buy. Even if it's a cheap thing that I buy, I do the research. For games, whenever I don't know if a game is good, I'll go look for some reviews. I'll watch tons of reviews to make sure that I'm not just spending money on bullshit. And before you go $4,000, it's 4,000 Rand, which is probably like $300 or some shit like that. So it's not like it's fucking like, it's just 4,000. The one I'm looking at right now is about 5,900 Rand, which is roughly about $350, $360 thereabouts. But I'm not yet sure if I'm going to buy it, because I want to make sure that I'm buying the right thing. So you kind of have to ask yourself here, who is to blame? Is it the developers for exploiting the fact that most people are stupid and will not look at what they're buying? Or is it the people's fault that isn't looking at what they're buying? And here, my sense is that I blame the people that isn't looking at what they're buying, because the other option is that it is up to corporations to look out for our best interests. And I don't think I trust corporations to do that at all. because corporations should just be trying to make money. The second they try and think for me what is good for me, I start to get fucking worried, because I don't think they will actually do that.
Fat Shark's fault for releasing a early access period that is basically just a soft launch with the possibility of resetting content, by the way. I'll touch on that in a moment. It's really hard to pin down. I guess it's just, I just feel like it might be kind of a misstep to go this route. Not the idea of releasing a game in a pre-launch period in order to alleviate the server pressure and iron out any final bugs, but to do that with the limited content, I just feel, again, like it's just leaving a bad first impression for a lot of people, and it does feel like it is the case. Really, we are paying money to play test the game and help. I
love the blood and the fucking gore and shit.
Release. All of that is kind of a long-winded way of saying, why isn't this just a beta test if they're still running into all of these issues? Why is this tied into pre-order and then also staggered content release? I really like Darktide. Okay, I've said it up and down in my first video covering the closed beta. I think this is a great game, and I'm actually fairly convinced it's going to be a very, very solid experience when all is said and done. So much about the combat, the gameplay loop, the atmosphere, the world building, the music, all of that. It's just a really, really, it's good. It's fun. Like, I've had a good time even with the stripped down version.
I need to ask one question. Is there an FOV slider in the game for those of you that have played it already?
Of the game, just playing with my mates for these past few days. But I do think what they're doing is just acting as a poor introduction for a few reasons. I do suspect there will be some players who jump in and play what's here and come away feeling like the game is lacking, because it is. In its current form, it is lacking just because they're releasing the content in a staggered manner. Again, whose fault is that? If you're buying into early access and then complaining that it's early access and doesn't have everything, that is on the player to the degree for not doing their due diligence.
I don't think that's how flamethrowers work, but
people are spending money on the game, and for the sake of the game, I'm just not sure this was ultimately the best route to go. We have to remember, we are in a landscape where there are a ton of great games to play. Every day, new games are coming out, especially with the live service industry being what it is. A lot of these big games are super polished and continuously get more and more content.
Wait, Absolute Scumbag Videomaker breaks his positives into one video, then clickbait negatives in another to double his own viewers on the subject, then has the cheek to slack the devs off for a staggered release when he literally did it with his review. Abaddon, I think you're completely misunderstanding the point there. So he made videos on all of the good things that Darktide is doing throughout all its beta launches and shit like that. And now that it is in the sort of promo launch, he's making a video highlighting some of the things that's still wrong and should still be fixed. I think you're trying to attribute more to it than what it actually is.
And have these growing player bases, and first impressions for that reason, they matter a lot. And Darktide, currently sitting at a mixed user score on Steam, can attest to that fact. The first impression has not been good for the myriad of reasons we've went over. I know that they're calling it a beta, but yes, we are at the moment 10 days away from release, and by all accounts, the game is still plagued with issues, technical, performance, and server.
Yeah, but okay, so understand it like this, Abaddon. Let's say, and I actually fucking did this in the past. When World of Warcraft goes into beta, like the first beta that starts, I will usually try to focus on all the positives. And I've done this with every other expansion. I got into Legion's beta, I got into BFA's beta, and I got into Shadowlands beta. And in all three of those, at the beginning of the beta, I focus on the good things. Because I know it's early beta, there's going to be a shit ton of bugs. That's fine. I'm focusing on the positives of what this game could become. Okay? And then, as we get closer to release, some of the bugs that I did mention in my previous videos, like I would go over just a little bit of some of the things that is still wrong that I think they're going to fix. As we get closer to release and I start looking at some of these things that should be fixed, but there's nowhere near enough time to fix these things, that's when my videos will start to shift to a lot more negative, where I'll be like, okay, guys, this, and this is seriously wrong, and I don't think they're fixing it. Not yet. Anyways, this is going to be months into the game before this shit will actually get fixed. Because that's just the nature of the thing. You try and give them as much slack as early as possible, because you don't want to start with a beta release and just immediately shit on the developers for mistakes and things. You kind of do want to wait until the time sort of matures and you can actively say that these are bugs that will break people's experiences. Kingler Dieter, how you doing, bro? Thanks for the follow. But you at least wait until near release to criticize for the remaining issues. He's done this video in the first couple of days before they even start releasing the fixes. It is near release, Avanon. It's 10 days out. When he made this video, they were 10 days out. That is as near to release as you can fucking get. I start making my negative videos on World of Warcraft a month before release. Because by a month before release, you should effectively be working on polishing patches. You should be polishing things. You shouldn't really... There shouldn't be major bugs anymore. Those should have been fixed already. You're now just polishing out, like ironing out some of the small things. So when you still have game-breaking bugs 10 days before launch, that becomes a problem. Like, what the fuck have you guys been doing up until now?
I feel like justifiably have me concerned where the game will be at in 10 days from now. I mean, that is on Fat Shark to fix. My advice for you at this point would be to just wait for the full release, to not buy into this early access for all just because it's got all these issues and not all of the content is there. Once all of the content is in the game on the 30th and we have time to see.
Oh, and I should also just, I think, make this clear. I don't think Force Gaming would have made this video if they didn't charge for this early access. If this wasn't a charged beta early access release, he probably would have made this video. If this was free for everyone, so they decided to do this beta event leading up to the launch where people could have access to a couple of the missions just to try it out, you know, and that was a promo event, but it is available for everyone. I think Force Gaming would have been like, well, you know, they're just trying to basically stress test, but also do a bit of promo on the side, because that's effectively what this is. The fact that it is charged for makes it no longer really a beta, because only people that have bought it can actually access it. So you're effectively, you know, this is the game. The fact that they're calling it beta doesn't mean anything. You bought it, and now you can play it. This is the game. Because even if the game goes live, anyone that didn't buy it can't fucking play it. So effectively, that is why this video is probably not made. I am giving him a lot of slack here because I don't just want to go off and blame content creators for things. So I'm trying to be as good faith as possible towards him, because I don't think Force Gaming has ever done anything to make me think that he doesn't deserve the good faith. So that's really why I'm trying to do it.
If they've ironed out everything that's currently a problem in these next 10 days, then I will tell you if all of that is good. Yeah, check out the game, because the core of it, I'll keep saying it, is really good. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool game, but they do have a lot of hurdles to clear. And I do want to mention as well, it's worth noting that I just found out recently, it's not even guaranteed that progress is going to carry over from what I've been playing for these past 4 days. It's not even guaranteed it's going to be there on the 30th. What they've said is that their goal is to ensure the progress carries over, but that they cannot fully guarantee it. The reason being that part of this beta test period is for them to test the progression systems, and they are reserving the opportunity to change or reset things in the event something unforeseen or critical happens, which is all the more reason to just not buy in right now. Not buy in, not because I don't think Darktide will be a great game if they solve all of these problems, but because there's just still too many issues. And that's where I am right now. I'm pumping the brakes. I'm just not going to play anymore until the full release happens in 10 days. Just I don't want to burn myself out. I don't want to have progress reset.
I don't follow that shit.
I've already sunk almost 20 hours in. The fact that might just go away, possibly. I don't love it, but that's why I'm done. I'm putting the game now down. As much as I want to keep playing because it's fun to play, I'll wait till there's more variety of content, till the rest of the content is in there, and to see if they can fix all of these issues in the next couple of weeks. We will see. And hopefully by the time launch happens as well, I can log in without using a VPN, because I don't what is going on? All right, that does it for me today. It's been a bit of a mess, but I'm still very hopeful for Darktide. I hope they can fix these issues. And hey, you could argue that part of the reason they're doing things the way that they're doing, even though it might end up leaving a bad first impression for some users, was to deal with these issues, because it's, I guess, better that they're trying to deal with them now than on the 30th. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you next time. Take it easy.
that's perfectly fine, and I don't mind that people want to play the game. I do think though that especially when they say that progression might not even be rolling over, that's just more evidence that this is just paid fucking. Yeah, it is just a paid beta, and I don't like paid betas. I'll be honest about that. I think paid betas is just super scumbag. Betas should either be open for everyone or fully closed. And when I say fully closed, I mean you should force people. They're not allowed to show footage. They're not allowed to stream. They're not allowed to do jack shit. They can play the game. They can taste the game. They can give you feedback. But that's the end of it. Because you are just doing a beta, right? You're just trying to figure out what's wrong with your game. This is the work of chaos. Your players keep destroying heretics. Take this game-breaking bug. Where's your emperor now? Why Akko beta is beta? So why does it matter, Akko, whether it's beta or not? Because when you get so paid betas is effectively just another way of manipulating people out of their money. That's all a paid beta is for. Because there's that FOMO effect. There's that, oh my god, if I don't play now, other people are going to play before me, and I want to play too. And because most consumers are stupid fucking assholes, they'll just take out the money and they'll just do it because they have to, because they feel compelled to. And I don't like that. I hate that part of our industry now, where they continuously introduce these these miserable FOMO products meant to basically prey on the weaker members of society in a way that, yeah, I cannot fucking support that shit. From a creator, and deciding on it would be bias. However, defending it with your life when there is issues all over because you had a good time is also biased. I mean, everyone is biased. That's just that's just the nature of the game. I'm not pretending to be unbiased. I can't be. I'm human, and if you're human, you are biased because humans are we are confirmation seeking creatures. We decide what we want to believe, and then we look for the evidence that confirms what we already believe. As humans, we do not look for the evidence of things that can actually change our minds, because changing our minds makes us feel uncomfortable. It's not nice learning that you are wrong about things. You instead want to learn that you were right all along. Podcast Akko, podcast starting in 19 minutes. Arabia, we won't be reacting to the new Linka interview today. I don't have time. The podcast with Rurikon is starting now. Maybe Rurikon have watched the Linka interview, in which case Rurikon can we can talk about it during the podcast. For sure, I am biased. I want this game to be the best game ever made, but I look past that bias to see issues and point them out to make sure people get correct information. Yeah, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Later can't wait. Yeah, I'm not allowed to react to the Preach video. Preach asked in one of his streams that streamers wait at least a day before we react to the videos. So I want to give Preach that, that leeway so that his video can first get its natural views and then we'll react to it. So most likely reactions to Preach's video will happen over the weekend sometime or on Monday. Heathen History, I can only apologize, bro. My electricity is only allowing me so much work, bro. It's only allowing me so much to do. I just want to see something. That's actually something I've wanted to see now. I wanted to look at it yesterday. But I need to see what are the chances of my power being off on launch day for World of Warcraft. So that's Monday, right? But I have to look at Tuesday. All right, boys, some good news. If World of Warcraft launches at 12 o'clock, which I think it will do on Monday, I should not have load shedding. Which is such good news. Hopefully Hopefully there's no load shedding. Because that would be so fucking miserable, dude. Imagine that. World of Warcraft's about to launch, but I have load shedding, so I can't fucking play it. And I have always been online on the night off. I haven't always played on the night off. I remember when Battle for Azeroth launched, we couldn't actually get in. We just could not get into the game. And so we were hanging out for about 2.5, 3 hours, and then I went to bed. And then we played the next day because we couldn't actually get into the fucking game. The queues were just insane. They didn't have any queues for Shadowlands, so hopefully there won't be queues for this one. Fast Smoke, that is fucking true. That is true. Very true. Rurikon, yeah, we can jump into call. Stuck in queue, launch, load shedding for 18 hours. That would be miserable. That would be the worst thing in the world. Don't say shit like that. Don't fucking jinx it. Okay, guys, as always, or not as always, as last week, I quickly have to end the stream so that I can switch to Discord with my camera, and then we'll be back with the podcast. So, like a minute. I don't know how long it took last time. I think it took like a minute. So yeah, give me 1 minute and then we'll be back. Actually, let me just change the title first so that I don't have to change that in between the break as well. All right, that should be fine. We'll update that. And I'm going to be back in like fucking not even 2 minutes. So see you guys in 2 seconds.